Good afternoon. This is Representative Eric Mortensen out of Shakopee, District 55A, doing my weekly update from my legislative office here in St. Paul. And as I've been mentioning lately, it gets very lonely down here, but there was actually some noise in the hallway earlier today, and it was so strange because it's just so dead quiet. But I thought this week I would talk about the omnibus bills, because that is what the entire legislature is working on. And in all the committee meetings, that's all we're doing is reviewing our gigantic omnibus bills. And I have in front of me here the tax omnibus bill. But what these are supposed to be is just budget related, coming up with appropriating dollars for the myriad of government agencies out there. But unfortunately, what tends to happen is they incorporate policy changes into this as well. In fact, in Tuesday's judiciary meeting, I think our last judiciary meeting, the chair of the committee, Chair Becker Finn, had the audacity to complain that, we had to put policy into our omnibus budget bill. And she blamed the Republican Senate, when it has become obvious to me now in my first term here that the chair of these committees have essentially full control, because a bill will not be heard in that committee unless the chair wants it heard. And a bill will not end up in that omnibus bill unless the chair wants it in that omnibus bill. So for any of these chairs to blame the Republican-controlled Senate for the contents of their omnibus bill is utterly absurd. Of course, if we were to keep these things strictly budget-focused, if you were to take a look at the prior biennium budget, and let's just say you kept spending flat, because I guarantee most of your households, you didn't see some huge increase in your income because of the state of our economy. So if we were to treat state government the exact same way, the way you're treating your household budget, assuming to be flat, we actually have a $7 billion surplus in the state of Minnesota. But is that good enough for the House Democrats? No. They want billions of dollars in tax increases, including a gas tax. And on the subject of taxes, as I serve on the tax committee, here is the tax omnibus bill, and not the actual bill, because the actual bill will be about yay tall, maybe taller. This is just the summary of the 300 plus changes they're making to Minnesota state tax law. This is the tax omnibus bill, comprised of hundreds of changes to state tax law. You can see the header here, change items. So every single one of these line items is a change to existing tax law. And these in particular are all related to House File 501, Chair Marquardt's bill that he already voted against on the House floor when I forced a standalone vote on this bill, the way this bill should be heard. Hundreds of changes, 14 pages of state tax law. The most common question and concerns that we've been hearing in tax committee, of course, relate to the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP issue that I've been trying to force for months, frankly. In fact, in yesterday's tax committee meeting, we've had 28 testifiers, and I would guess roughly half of them were begging and pleading the tax committee to do full tax conformity on this PPP issue. Because what the House Democrats have done is they have taken only $240 million of the $438 million that is on the table. So essentially right around half. In other words, what the state of Minnesota is doing, what the House Democrats are trying to do, is they're trying to profit on the backs of beaten down business owners by taking the dollars the federal government sent them for help as a lifeline, take it right back out of their pocket and bring it here to St. Paul. But of course, as I've been exposing now for months, the chair of the tax committee, Representative Paul Marquardt, has been incredibly inconsistent, and he changes his tune based on who he probably thinks is watching or listening. Let's give a little recap here.
I think everyone's kind of realizing the $438 million is going to be very tough to do. So it's going to have to be targeted. But as we progress on this bill, it is really important that we include all businesses and all individuals who have been impacted by COVID-19. Before the train leaves the station, we need to make sure we bring everyone along, that we help everyone who's been hit by the COVID-19, and that's businesses, individuals, and families. We conform to the PPP loan exclusion up to $350,000 per loan. That will completely exclude over 90% of all the loans, and that's about $240 million.
Since none of my legislation would be heard in any committee, because again, the Democrats, they control the entire agenda of every committee, the only way to get things heard is by filing amendments. My amendment is called the A5 Amendment, and what it is it essentially treats the state government in an equitable fashion to how the state government has been treating the private sector for the last 13 months. Because as we all know, Governor Walz set a very new and very dangerous precedent a year ago when he said some businesses are essential and some businesses are not essential. And then he used government force to close non-essential businesses. And when you do that, you choke out the revenue stream of those non-essential businesses. And then he doubled down last November by forcefully closing down bars and restaurants again choking out their revenue stream. So my amendment, the A5 Amendment, says in the event of a state government shutdown, my amendment, the A5 Amendment, would cease the collection of all state consumption taxes and all state income taxes. In other words, there would be no liquor tax, no cigarette tax, there'd be no gas taxes that would be required to be paid, there'd be no sales taxes whatsoever, no state sales taxes would be collected, and on top of that, your incomes would all go up because you would not be required to pay a state income tax. That would be treating the state government in an equal fashion to the way that the private sector has been treated. And I think it would give people a real-time awareness as to how intrusive and invasive our state government has become. So we shall see around 1 o'clock today if House Democrats that serve on the tax committee really truly believe in treating things in an equitable fashion. Because if they're going to choke out revenue streams of the private sector, they should be willing to treat state government in an equal fashion. But of course, even these omnibus bills are not the end of the process. What will ultimately happen, mark my words, is 3 people are going to huddle in a closed-door room. It'll be the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate Majority Leader. They will huddle in a room and they will hash out all of the details that we've worked on for the last 4 months. They're going to present that deal that they will strike to their caucus members, and they're just going to tell their members, you're voting for it. And that is how the legislative process will ultimately come to an end come the middle of May. So this is Eric Mortensen again, reminding you if you want to be politically heard, you must be politically feared.